Welcome back to another video, YouTube. To how strong is Kingpin really? Reactions. Dun-dun-dun. I gotta watch the new episode of Daredevil. Excuse me.
Episode a couple of years ago during the first Daredevil run. You can find that right here. Anyway, let's highlight some examples of Kingpin's enormous power in the comics. To be clear, we're talking about
A Kingpin. I got sneeze again.
Regularly goes up against Spider-Man, so
excuse me.
But we're gonna start this off with a banger, and that's the time Spider-Man in hand-to-hand combat in the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 100. Now, keep in mind, Wilson Fisk once again does not have any superpowers. He's just a brute of a man.
He just peaked.
So he was able to fight Spider-Man in hand-to-hand combat. Towards the end of the issue, Spider-Man jumps Kingpin, saying, "I've had it with you, Kingpin. Had it up to here. Here's where we settle the score once and for all." The Kingpin just grabs him with his bare hands and flips him on his
That's
back,
crazy,
saying,
bro.
"I was hoping I'd get the opportunity to take out my anger and frustration with you in the form of hand-to-hand combat." Spider-Man on his back then just uses his legs to grab Kingpin by the head to flip Fisk on his back. But Fisk gets back up while saying, "Agile and strong as ever I see," while Spider-Man watches him get
Bro, they gotta have Spider-Man and Daredevil. Maybe season 3.
Here he comes again. As the Kingpin charges, Spidey punches Kingpin in the face, saying, "Forget it, Kingpin.
I think it should be a movie though, season 3.
And I could do it again." Fisk then says, "But I've been working out." As he hammer punches Spider-Man on the back of the head and then kicks him, sending Spidey flying while saying, "As well as taking martial arts instruction. I think you can see and feel how adept I've become." Spider-Man then just gets back up and starts crawling around the room as Kingpin picks up an entire desk and throws it at Spider-Man. Spidey then says, "I can hardly believe this. He's actually keeping me on the defensive. You know, Kingpin, for a guy with no special powers, you're a pretty tough customer." As Spidey starts swinging around the spiral staircase. Kingpin replies, "Indeed," as he rips the staircase off the wall with his bare hands.
Bro, what? Staircase? That's crazy.
"Sure you're not a mutant or something?" Kingpin replies, "Fool, your interference with my plans cost me the cure of my Vanessa. My rage and hatred
Always Vanessa.
until it is more than a match for yours." Now, right after this, Spidey delivers a few kicks and punches to Kingpin's head, putting Kingpin on his butt, even warning Kingpin, "Don't try it, I'm warning you." But of course, Kingpin starts getting up as Spidey says, "He's getting up again? He must be related to the Juggernaut or something." Kingpin says,
Right.
"I lost my head there for a moment, Spider-Man. Forgot the true direction I wanted my vengeance to take. To kill you would be too merciful." Spider-Man replies, "You wouldn't just be saying that because I'm mopping up the floor with you, would you, Kingy?" Kingpin replies, "You think me so easily."
He was just stalling.
This confrontation cease. To that end, I push
Yeah, man.
and summon the police. Spidey says, "The police? Don't make me laugh." Kingpin, while getting up, says, "Hardly a laughing matter. I own this building. You're trespassing. I suggest you leave." Spider-Man is all like, "This is crazy. You're the biggest crime lord in the city. Threatening
Ain't no way.
police?" Kingpin tells him, "Alleged crime lord, Spider-Man. My record is clean." As Spider-Man's like, "All right, I'll leave," as he goes out the window. But man, the big takeaway here is how Kingpin was able to keep up with Spider-Man. Now, given Spider-Man
He didn't want the smoke.
but nonetheless, Kingpin doesn't have any superpowers or mutant abilities, so for him to be able to keep Spider-Man on the defensive and even get several hits in is pretty insane. I mean, when Spider-Man first threw him, he even said that shot would have put most men in the hospital for a month. Spider-Man even acknowledged how Kingpin, a normal human, ripped an entire staircase off the wall with his bare
Nah, that's
hands.
insane, bro.
Saying, "You sure you're not a mutant or something? Because who could do this?" Throughout the entire fight, Spider-Man was extremely impressed with how strong Kingpin is, making comments like, "Is he related to the Juggernaut?" And speaking of power sets, we just got a package in the mail from today's sponsor, Turtle Beach. The hikes up with your first game.
Skip this part.
But it does. Normal way you 7 for promo day, issue 61.
There we go.
Kingpin is talking to his henchmen about his plans, saying, "If I or anyone else should be foolish enough to stumble upon our little secret, they are to be immediately disposed of without any delay. Just as you will now find and dispose of ex-Captain Stacy. Since the police are after him, he can no longer be considered a good security risk. And as a reward for taking the photograph which started it all, Peter Parker is to be eliminated also. But your main target, your most important target, is to be Spider-Man. He's been a thorn in my side since our first meeting. I want him crushed, just as I'm crushing this steel chair. It will be his life or yours." As the two henchmen Kingpin is talking to to watch him crush a steel chair with his bare hands. He's literally crushing it like a soda can, folding that thing into a damn t-shirt. Again, Kingpin doesn't have any superpowers, but you wouldn't know it by seeing all the crazy stuff he's been shown to do over the years.
Yeah, after watching the Spider-Verse, I thought he had super strength at least.
Because as he says himself, the door to my vault requires no lock, which some petty thief can one day open. Only the Kingpin's naked strength can accomplish such a feat. So he doesn't need to lock it because no one could even open it if it was unlocked because of how damn heavy it is. Only he's strong enough to pull open the vault door, which is insane.
Ain't no way, bro.
Later on in the issue, Kingpin comes into conflict.
Hey, yo, why is he getting naked?
And after Spidey brings Kingpin to the ground with what looks like a hurricanrana, Kingpin then grabs Spider-Man's fist with his bare hand, saying, "And now it's my turn. You just made your first fatal mistake by getting close enough for me to grab you. And this time, I shall not let go until Spider-Man..."
Yeah, break his wrist.
Spider-Man then says, "Even with my Spidey strength, I can't take much more of this. Have to do something, anything, fast." Then on the next panel, we see Kingpin crushing Spider-Man's hand as Spidey says, "Too much pressure. Never been so helpless before." As Kingpin continues to crush
Better web him up.
his hand. Kingpin then tells Spider-Man no one could match the Kingpin's strength. At last, there can be no doubt that I am the victor. Spider-Man has finally met his master, but while Kingpin is gloating, Spider-Man gets back up, punches Kingpin in the stomach, sending him to the floor. Spider-Man then grabs his hand, saying, "My hand is almost completely numb. Have to keep rubbing it to make the blood circulate." Now, in the end, Spider-Man is obviously able to get the best of Kingpin, but Kingpin is still on his feet and just a little dazed, at which point he's taken away by the cops. The point is, though, Kingpin is so
It's crazy, because he don't even got no tech. He's just keeping up.
As far as almost crushing Spider-Man's hand with nothing but his own hand. That is utterly crazy since, yet again, I have to keep saying this, he has no superpowers.
Or tech. No technology, nothing.
In the issue, not only do we see Kingpin casually throwing up 350 pounds on the bench press repeatedly, on the next page, we see him shake the hand of someone only to rip his arm off with a single pull, just to make a point. Now, besides him making some sadistic point, do you realize how strong you have to be to rip someone's arm clean off from their shoulder with
That's crazy, bro.
pull? Now, the super crazy thing is, at the end of that issue, Kingpin is held at gunpoint by his driver who says, "You shouldn't have killed my brother." Kingpin then throws him
A bullet ain't gonna kill him either.
Up his gun and starts unloading into Kingpin's center mass as Kingpin takes 6 rounds straight to the chest, causing him to stumble back and fall off the bridge into the water. At this point, Daredevil comes up saying, "Larry, give me the gun," which he does, but we then see the Daily Bugle report that Wilson Fisk was shot and plummeted to
Damn.
However, we find
Of
out
course.
in 14,
They
Kingpin
framed
is
him.
still very much alive, surviving the fall and several shots to the chest. Because apparently,
As a
matter
big
what
boy.
they say, Kingpin's superhuman. I mean, how else can you explain this stuff? Oh wait, I know. Comic books. Anyway, that brings us to our last instance of Kingpin's immense strength, which comes from Captain America 147.
What's up?
Faces off against the first Avenger.
Versus
Towards
Cap.
the end of the issue, Captain America squares off with Kingpin and says, "Maybe you caught Spider-Man off guard once or twice during his younger days, but Captain America has been around for a long time." Straight up acknowledging that Kingpin, as we saw today, has gotten some pretty good licks in on Spider-Man. But Kingpin just charges Captain America, saying one superhero is the same as another when matched against the Kingpin. But Captain America dodges and Kingpin goes headfirst into the wall with Cap saying,
dummy.
"We all
Ah.
seem the clumsy oaf you are." Kingpin then gets back up saying, "You dare mock
Yeah, I
me.
did.
I assure you, you'll
Did
live
you?
to regret it. Starting now." As he trips Captain America, Cap says, "Have to watch it. He's much faster, much more nimble than I suspected."
It was
"My every
pretty
move
good,
surprises you,
I
does it
think.
not? I'm rather agile for one so large. Isn't that what you're thinking?" Cap says to himself he's right. He's as quick as any foe I've ever faced, and probably at least as strong. Act fast, Cap, or this could be the end. So let's pause for a second. Captain America just said he's as quick as any foe he's ever faced and probably at least as strong. This is a prime example of why Kingpin is one of the most goated villains of all time. He's just a normal dude
Not yet.
and is a problem for anyone he faces, much like Batman. He's also a normal
I think
dude.
soon. I don't know when though.
Nothing. In any case, Kingpin grabs Captain America by the leg and throws him across the room as Kingpin says, "First, Captain America, you fall. Then while you lie helpless contemplating the might of your opponent, I will strike my death blow. Captain America says to himself, head reeling, but have to move. Kingpin goes in for the death blow, saying, die, but Cap is able to move out of the way, saying, not yet, thanks, kicking Kingpin in the head. Kingpin then says, fool, how can you expect a blow from yourself to even phase me when I have withstood the might of Spider-Man? Because as we know, Spider-Man is indeed stronger than Captain America, but Cap says, beats me, but a man has to have hope to stand a chance.
I guess he could do it all day though.
And puts him in a bear hug, squeezing the life out of Cap, while Kingpin says, what chance? For all your acrobatic skill and prowess with the shield, you never had a prayer against the sheer brute strength of the Kingpin. Captain America then says to himself, crushing the breath from me, about to black out. And Cap very well would have if it wasn't for Red Wing, Falcon's bird, coming through the window and starting to peck at Kingpin's head, with the Falcon quickly following. So basically, Kingpin
He needed backup.
defeated Captain America if it wasn't for Red Wing and
That's
Falcon.
kind of crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Essentially, Kingpin, at least in this confrontation, is stronger than a super soldier. That's nuts. So if you ever wondered how strong Kingpin is in the comic books, the answer is extremely strong and probably stronger than a super soldier. But there you have it, friends.
That's insane, bro.
Demonstrate just how powerful Kingpin is in the comics. He's way more powerful in the comics than they've made him in the MCU. But the MCU tends to make
They need to buff him.
more powerful than their comic counterparts. In any case, what do you guys think of the Kingpin? Are you loving him in Daredevil Born Again? And do you wish they made him stronger in the series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.